The World Health Organization reports that more than 700,000 people die from suicide annually. It is the fourth leading cause of death among 15 to 29 years old. 77% occur in low to middle income countries, and more than twice as many males die to suicide than females. Now, you might be wondering what a marine engineer is doing here. I have no degree in psychology. I'm just someone on a personal mission of sharing our story in the hope that one or two families can be spared from the immense pain of grieving a death from suicide. Grief is grief, but grieving a death from suicide leaves you in a far deeper hole. You'll question every encounter, every memory, if they were authentic, and if it had any influence leading up to the tragic event. It can shake you up to the core, hitting and staying at rock bottom for some time. I've had a lot of conversations and heard a lot of different stories from people regarding the topic. Those who had similar losses, those who were and are struggling mentally, and those engaged in handling such fragile cases. I'm coming forward from a lot of discernment from our experience and that of what is shared by others, but this is by no means medical advice, nor am I an expert on the field. What has been true from our experience may not hold true for some, as the causes are varied and this issue quite complex. So in the light of trying to save at least one soul, I'll be sharing with you 5 insights I've got from processing our loss. This is not an extensive list. However, this is something that we can start and build on. 1. Familiarity and overcomplacency can be very dangerous. Don't leave anything to chance. We might have grown accustomed to our loved ones, especially those who we have spent much time or bonded with dearly, and have developed thick biases about them, thinking they're more than capable of handling anything that life throws at them. Don't get me wrong, confidence towards them is great, but too much of it puts us at risk of being blindsided about the real situation. So whenever you can, try to ask them intently about how they are, what's going on in their life, or if something troubles them. Just be wary of people who seem to have it all together because sometimes they're the most vulnerable. Try also to observe for subtle signals in how they are communicating. Perhaps they're not telling you the full truth. Should they decide to open up on their own, strive to be present and listen with compassion. Don't jump into conclusion and dismiss the gravity of what they're going through because you had it easier before or you're preoccupied with your other priorities. Especially, don't get angry and assure them you'll be with them no matter what. Your compassionate words and heartfelt presence could mean so much for them. 2, be courageously open and honest. Make sure you are supported and understood. If you're on the receiving end of someone asking, try to be as transparent and as possible and acknowledge that you are not a burden. You will need all the help you can to survive. And blindsiding your loved ones can somehow feel like a betrayal and potentially fatal on your end. Come to think of it, how will they know the extent of your struggles unless you tell them and make sure they really understand? Stop with the white lies and share about what troubles you to people. You're like any human being who stumbles and falls. If you try to do everything on your own, there might even be an unfortunate scenario where your mind will trick you into believing that the world is a better place without you. Don't ever listen to that voice. On the other hand, if you know someone who's having thoughts of suicide, it is important that you take their situation seriously. The best course of action might be to inform their family about what's going on, as involving their family can be incredibly helpful in monitoring their condition and ensuring that they receive the support that they need. I understand sometimes that your friend might ask you to keep their situation a secret. However, it is essential to keep in mind that there's a life at stake here. In the words of Nicole Browning in her talk about losing her child to suicide, good friends never keep a secret about someone talking about suicide, even if they're asked to. Intervening can save lives. Third, learn how to calm down and prioritize your well-being. Your loved ones need you to be emotionally available. Try to imagine a river flowing down from the mountains into the sea. We are like the river that's taking in water from the mountains, the source, and allowing it to flow down into the mountains, the sea, I mean. If we stop receiving water from the mountains, do you think we would still be able to provide water into the sea? I don't think so. My point here is simple and straightforward. In order for us to sustainably give, we must have a source that sustainably fills us up. If not, then we risk drying up and not being able to provide that much needed water for our loved ones. Now, what are the possible things that can fill up an individual? This can vary a lot depending on the person, but the general ones are sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Educate yourself and talk to health professionals on how can this affect your well-being. The list can also include connecting with nature and taking practical steps towards your wellness, like slowing down to appreciate life, setting healthy boundaries so you don't get abused or overextend yourself, and perhaps taking a time off to gain better perspective. Just a sub-note, in the unfortunate event where you'll find yourself on the edge and nearing your last straw, I'm pleading that you muster up all the courage you have to prioritize your life and peace of mind. That's probably the best decision that you can make at that moment. Fourth, nurture or be part of safe and inclusive spaces. You'll thrive in an intentional group. I'll make an assumption. Most of us have already encountered the Maslow hierarchy of needs. At the third level, we can see love and belonging, connection with your friends, your family, and the community. If you have these taken care of, then good. You're on your way to self-actualization. But for those who are left out, it's a completely different story. Because without that sense of connection, people can feel lonely, and loneliness is associated with higher anxiety, depression, and suicide rates. Surprising? Not really. I suspect most of us experienced a general sense of isolation during the peak of COVID-19 pandemic. So some of you can relate to what I'm talking about here. But obviously, we cannot save everyone. The least that we can do is try to be part of a group that reaches out to others and asks intentional questions that make people feel seen, heard, included, and understood. Developing a sense of community where people can own up to their mistakes without fear and judgment can have a lasting effect on others, perhaps changing and even saving someone's life. Fifth, learn how to deal with shame through forgiveness. You deserve peace and happiness. Shame can hinder someone from getting help, and this can contribute to the progression of some cases of mental illness. There are two types of shame, the internal and the external. Internal shame is more about the negative beliefs a person has about themselves, while external is caused by worrying about the negative beliefs others may have. One unfortunate scenario is when the external is internalized and further amplified by negative self-talk and social isolation, developing depression and plunging deeper into it. There's no sugarcoating here. Depression is linked to higher risk of suicide. Although there's no foolproof way of countering shame, we can start by acknowledging our emotions and what happened, mustering as much support we can while dealing with the consequences, prioritizing healing through forgiveness, and moving forward with the intention of becoming better individuals. Meanwhile, there are people who hold on to unforgiveness because it reminds them of how not to be abused or perhaps the gravity of the fault seems to be unbearable to be dealt with for now. Feel through those emotions, but don't allow it to consume you for so long that it eats much joy from your life. You eventually have to let go of all that anger and resentment. Those are the 5 insights I've got from processing our loss. If you want to take it a step further, here's additional information from the World Health Organization regarding suicide and suicide prevention. Many suicides happen impulsively in moments of crisis with a breakdown in the ability to deal with life stresses, such as financial loss, relationship breakup, chronic pain, and illness. In addition, experiencing conflict, violence, abuse, loss, and sense of isolation are strongly associated with suicidal behavior. Suicide rates are high among vulnerable groups who experience discrimination, such as refugees and migrants, indigenous people, LGBTI persons, and prisoners. By far, the strongest risk factor for suicide is previous suicide attempt. The good thing is suicides are preventable. Much can be done on the personal, community, and national level. We can look into these 2 resources for guidance. The first one is WHO's Live Life, its approach to suicide prevention. The second one is MHGAP, Intervention Guide for Disorders in Non-Specialized Health Settings. Both can be downloaded from their website. The big picture may seem like a daunting task, but remember, much can be done on the personal level. 2 of the reasons why we failed to protect our loved one from suicide is because we never thought collectively that it could happen to us, and we have failed to educate ourselves deeper about the matter. I hope you don't fall on the same mistakes as we did. Everyone is vulnerable. Suicide does not discriminate whoever you are. Awareness is okay to a certain degree, but if we want to take appropriate actions, we must seek better understanding about mental health. With all that said, I want to leave you with the following questions. Do you want to remain passive and wait for suicide to knock at your very doorsteps? Or do you want to collaborate and take proactive steps to protect yourself, your loved ones, and the community? Will you take good care of yourself so that you can check on your loved ones and reach out to those who are struggling? Will you do whatever you can to regain and maintain your peace, happiness, and sanity? As long, of course, it's legal and ethical. Lastly, remember that you deserve peace and happiness. Thank you.